Man, we've been on a run here. We've been on a run on the David Talk Sports, Let's Talk Sports co-streams. Not today. Today really sucked. That was a painful loss. That was a really awful performance. Man, I feel like dang near everything went wrong. Bad penalty luck, bad literal bounces of the football. Offense played bad, special teams played bad, defense played bad. And it started so strong, but that ending was terrible. But I can't dive into it too quickly. Really quick. Joined by David Talks Sports. Find him over at David Talks Buffs, David Talks Broncos. He's finally back. Happy to be back with him doing one of these coach streams. Disappointed that it's following such a frustrating Broncos display.
Dude, I hate Jim Harbaugh. I hate this guy. I hate that he's in our division. I know Andy Reid's the golden boy in the NFL, but we got Harbaugh'd tonight, man. We got Harbaugh'd. Sean Payton should be embarrassed, man. I think that this was his worst managed game of the season. And yeah, man, we went full on Chargers. Like, it's amazing how Jim Harbaugh, after the Chargers, had 5-6 wins last year? Man, it doesn't matter the steps we've taken. Swept in 2024. That's a tough pill to swallow.
First time since 2010.
Wow.
By the
Pathetic,
Chargers.
man. Pathetic. And we had it. We let them off we had an 11-point lead. And we let them off the hook. It's like we lost our killer instinct, man. I don't even know where you want to start with it, Zach, but I'm just disappointed. We had a chance to come out here and clinch ourselves officially a playoff berth for the first time in, forever, since 2015. And we just laid a total egg right when that Tremont Smith penalty happened. It's like we never recovered the momentum.
I fully agree. And I will say, I think that's maybe a good spot to start things. There's a lot to unpack from this game, but that's kind of when it all went south. Or even the 3-and-outer kind of wasted possession before right then. I think there were a lot of problems with offensive play calling. I think this was a really poor performance from Bo Nix, honestly, too. And then you have some horrible breaks, too. I mean, 90 to 100% of the time you see an underthrown deep ball like that where the defensive back runs into the receiver. It's PI. That would have given the Broncos the ball on the 15-yard line. That's a tremendous play. That's at least 3 points off the board. And then the end of half one, that's going to be the big headline from this game. I don't hate the play call there. I think it took two incredibly unlikely events, honestly kind of three, because you also had to see a 57-yard field goal go through. It took three very unlikely things for that to break bad. And everyone applauding the 3rd and 11, Bo Nix dropping into his own end zone, firing to Marvin Mims into a tight fucking window for it to go down the field and change the game for the Denver Broncos against the Cleveland Browns. I don't think should be knocking the decision to throw a layup of a check down to Javonte Williams there, where he falls over. And you know what? If Marvin Mims, if Cortland Sutton, if Devon Villay, if Troy Franklin gets free on that deep shot, and Nix hits that play, and it's a touchdown, and it's 28-10 going into the half, no one's complaining about that calling. Panned out for the Broncos, but I don't know about that aggression there. And it went horribly. I'm not trying to say those 3 points were vital in this game. It cost the Broncos tremendously. But it doesn't happen if your wide open running back doesn't trip over his own shoelaces. And then you have a defensive player run into barely, if you look at the replay, barely taps Darius Davis. You need that to happen too. And then you need the inaction of a rule that hasn't come up since 1976. And then you need the Chargers to hit a 57-yard field goal. Because if none of those things on the punt, time expired. You need all of those things to happen. And, throw the free kick out of it. Okay, then you need a Hail Mary. For that to go wrong, you needed a series of incredibly unlikely outcomes. And it happened. It was poorly executed. If we want to get on Sean Payton for the execution of that, I think that's more fair to me than the play call. It is infinitely more likely that you get, as unlikely as it is infinitely more likely that you get an 80-yard touchdown than the fucking free kick rule that hasn't come up since 1976 comes into play. And you have Javonte Williams trip over his own shoes. So much more unlikely. Sorry, that's my little rant.
Zach, I'll agree with you on this, man. Like, I didn't hate the play calls too much. Do I hate Javonte Williams? Especially looking back when the dude just can't. I want to love that guy so much, but it's like, yeah, maybe you should have done a different type of play call, even though you wanted to still push it down the field. But here's the thing. I know it's a bang bang play. I know you could argue, okay, this guy, the returner, kind of put his leg out or whatever, and maybe he was pushed from behind. Nah, man, you see the guy wait for a fair catch, get out of the way. Like, get out the way. And at the end of the day, I think we had 3 personal fouls that extended 3 different drives. I think it led to at least, a 11-point swing, which was our entire lead, with those personal fouls. And you can call them, ticky-tack or whatever. But at the end of the day, man, like, those were bang-bang plays. I didn't agree with them on replay, but when both of those plays happened, or the 2 that I'm thinking of with Sternad and with Tremont Smith, when those things are happening live, I'm thinking, yeah, we just got a flag. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know how we could go from being such a good run team. Shout out to Pat Chiotti from Altitude Adjustment on Tuesdays. Called for it, man. Called for it. More power. And we got so much of that in the first half. Audric Estime looked great. I think he averaged over 5 yards a carry. But what did we see come crunch time, man? Just a lot of Javonte Williams. And like, some of the calls didn't go our way. Like, whatever. Bo Nix needs to hit that throw down to Marvin Mims. He needs to put it in a place to where he's not backtracking, fighting for the ball, trying to get back to it. This was just a huge missed opportunity, whether it was penalties, lack of execution on offense. I think Sean Payton got just coached around in circles in the second half by Jim Harbaugh, and it's embarrassing, man. Like, I'm embarrassed. I just had a weird feeling about this game, man, that the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh coach teams, they don't go into massive losing streaks. When they're embarrassed, they bounce back, and that's exactly what we saw, even with a roster that half of it or whatever is on injured reserve or not playing. That they cooked us just as bad as they did in the first matchup when they were completely healthy. It did not matter. Hassan Haskins is averaging 1.9 yards a carry coming into this game, and he torches us at the end to ice it. Like, you can't make this stuff up, man. The Chargers came in prepared to make a statement, and we didn't have an answer in the second half.
It was, and I think the run game is a good spot. Honestly, a lot of the offense. I think there were defensive shortcomings in this game. The blown play against Hassan Haskins at the end definitely stands out. They let the Chargers drive down on him a lot in this game. Lots of failed third down opportunities. Definitely defensive shortcomings. To me, it's on the offense. And I see the comments about the reffing. I'm with you guys. We can get into that in a second. But it's a lot of different layers to it. It's on Sean Payton abandoning the run in the second half. The run game also got suffocated in the second half, in part because of how Bo Nix was playing. Everyone in Denver has been dunking on the ADOT stats. Remember, everyone was quoting ADOT, and it was, oh, well, Bo Nix having a great season. Why are we even talking about ADOT? This is why. Because in the second half, the Chargers were squatting on everything short, And Bo Nix, which I don't think this was the case, 3 weeks ago against the Raiders. But maybe it's a result of the penalties these last 2 weeks, whatever, was not willing to fire the ball downfield. Some of that is on the play calling as well. There were a lot of those, design screens and dump offs and, RPOs and whatever. Not trying to deny that.
Yeah.
When they weren't, look at that final drive of the game. I promise you, there's downfield receivers there. Bo Nix is still throwing to the check down every time.
Oh man, it's driving me crazy. I felt like we were watching Trevor Siemian out there today.
And lowest ADOT, I don't know if this stat held true through the end of the game, but I didn't see anything to think it changed. They quoted like midway through the third quarter, it's the lowest ADOT of any quarterback this season. And again, that's why if you're not pushing the ball downfield at all, you let the defense just sit on everything. That's going to suffocate your run game. Yes, Sean Payton shouldn't have gone away from it too quick and should have leaned more on Estime and Blake Watson. That is also true. But they had 8 carries for 17 yards in the second half. Like, it was also incredibly inefficient. That's because it was getting absolutely suffocated by the Chargers defense, which, as we saw in the first half, isn't that great. They just adjusted and the Broncos weren't able to counterpunch. And that's on coaching. Absolutely. I think it's also on the quarterback. We see a lot of those designed running back dump offs and screens and whatnot. Some of it's to supplement the ground game. I also think some of it, at least watching this game, is dang, he's not pulling the trigger downfield. So we need these designed screens and short plays and kind of these layups for him to build confidence, to give him something he's willing to pull the trigger on, whatever it may be. I wonder how much of it is, a bit of a feedback loop. But yeah, they've got to figure some stuff out offensively. I think these last 3 games from Bo Nix are a little disappointing. This was the most frustrated I've been with Sean Payton's play calling. Again, a lot of it was designed play calls where it's like the Chargers are sitting on that stuff and you're still leaning into it. Run the ball or whatever was written down on the play sheet and he still abandoned the run game.
I wanted to point. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I keep ranting. Please, David.
Dude, D Brown's bringing up in the chat, estimate 2 second half carries. And I want to talk about that a little bit because total in the game, man, Audric Estime had only 9 carries. That's pathetic, man, for how he was running the football. And I think we even saw that in the second half. There was a drive where he opened up with like an 8-yard run on one of the drives. And then what do? We immediately take him out and give a handoff to Blake Watson for a gain of 1 yard. Now, I think we were able to still gain that first down. That might have been the one that went to 4th down. I can't remember. But it's like, why can't we just have a guy in literally for a series and just see what he can do? Oh, hey, you just took off and had a 7-8 yard run. Let's just give you the ball again. Like, to me, I feel like this is the pure example of Sean Payton just getting in the way of himself. I think that, we saw that at the beginning of the year, I think, with how much he was wanting to implement with Bo, early on. And it's like, man, like, stop with all the package and formation changes every single time. We're not getting the snap off. And ultimately all that stuff kind of settled down, but I think he got a little too cute, I think, to say the least, with how he was running the personnel.
I'll push back just a little on that, because the first 3 drives, when they're slicing through the Chargers defense, they're changing personnel like crazy. They had 4 different guys run the football on that first drive. They had, I think, 7 different people. They had 7 plays. 6 different people, either caught or ran the ball on that drive. And so I think, to me, it's working sometimes, it's working. Honestly, when they were having good drives, that's what they were doing. It's going away from. I think the Estime point is a great one. You have Javonte Williams getting 10 targets in this game, and some of that's coaching. I think some of that's on Bo. A lot of that's on Bo Nix too, frankly.
It's got to be.
But why aren't any of those going to Estime? Estime so clearly the best back on the Denver Broncos right now. He needs to be getting the lion's share of the workload. I imagine you get Jaleel McLaughlin back for that Bengals game. Javonte should not be getting more than 10% of the snaps. I mean, if it's a 3rd and 20 and it's either pass protection or dump off, fine. But like the way they use Michael Burton for like special pass protection or dump offs, that's what they need. That should be Javonte's role at this point. What else is he bringing to the table that Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin aren't, or even Marvin Mims? Or Blake Watson. Blake Watson
looked great in his limited usage in the passing game, I thought.
And it's tough to, I think, have both him and Jaleel on the roster. I do think that's a complication. Neither of them are going to give you anything on special teams.
Move on from both of them in the offseason, but yeah.
Probably, or at least keep one of them. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for this running back room next year. I think it's going to be like 10 times more dynamic. I cannot wait for it to be where Estime is probably the guy getting the 3rd most touches again, but it's like, oh, it's that way because fucking Keldon Johnson and Devin Neal are ahead of him. That's the world I want to live in, and I think we're not too far away from it. I will say, just as a little, there's more negatives I want to talk about, but before we get into all that, just being a little positive, I will say the Broncos still have a pretty tremendous chance of making the playoffs. And even winning now, they're going to be favored next week against the Cincinnati Bengals, and odds are against the Kansas City Chiefs and a squad of backups. If they just win the games they're favored in on the stretch, they're probably an 11-6 team still, which is insane. After the Falcons game, I thought I was being very optimistic, saying 11-6, and that's still very realistic and on the table. 10-7, very realistic and on the table. Again, this is a rebuilding year. Blah blah blah. I do think some of the aspects of that rebuild are shining through. This team is remarkably healthy, yet you're down one cornerback, and it has fundamentally changed the defense. I think you saw it each of these last 3 weeks. And Chris Abrams' drain is a hell of a lot better than Levi Wallace, but he's still not Riley Moss, and he's still not able to allow Vance Joseph in this Broncos defense to play the hyper aggressive style of ball they want to play. And as a result, they're a lot more easy to take advantage of.
Yeah. I love seeing Chris Abrams drain today, man. I think that there might have been some things that I'm sure, he wishes he could have back, but that interception was absolutely huge in the first half. I think we got a good ball player with him, no doubt about it. Man, I was going to give a shout out to Devon Vele, with his nice touchdown catch there in the first half. I mean, man, we were rolling, but yeah, Drew Sanders, with a nice sack there, I think in the 4th quarter to help force a punt, that was great. He was also huge on the Mims punt return on Sunday. So it's nice to see him making some impact plays, but yeah, I mean, I still expect this team to make the playoffs. I don't see this team losing 3 straight to finish out the year. Let's bounce back and really make a statement here in these last 2 games against the Bengals and Chiefs. But man, this is I hated the fashion in which we lost this game. And yeah, I've seen this in the comments too. I'm wondering, Zach, do you think Bo was scared to push the ball downfield after what happened on Sunday?
It's what I'm worried about. I want to watch the film to see, like, Jesse Minter has coached this Chargers team up phenomenally well. And there are some real talent shortcomings on it, but maybe they were just suffocating things downfield. Now, from a couple shots I saw on Twitter of certain all 22 replays and whatnot, it didn't look like that's the case. It looked like Bo had some downfield shots he wasn't pulling the trigger on. But I want to watch the film before I come to a definite conclusion. I will say, not all of those checkdowns were designed. I'd say maybe it's 50-50. And I think even for the 50% that are designed, and Sean Payton deserves criticism for it. But one thing I am wondering in my head, and I'm going to criticize Sean Payton for it just because he's ultimately the one calling the plays, and I don't have a definite answer. But in my head, I'm also wondering, is even the play calling the result of the coaching staff seeing our quarterback is hesitant to pull the trigger on these throws after those interception performances? Because when Bo was rolling a month ago, I think what was making it so special, like, yes, there was a lot of the design stuff. There were the training wheels in the offense. There were the screens. There were the short plays, and that was helping. That was still a lot of the offense. But when it got to a 3rd and 8 or whatever, he was hitting Cortland Sutton or Devon Villay or whatever on those digs. He was firing downfield, and it was working. This game, you'd see him drop back and he'd kind of look, and then, check down to Javonte. And not all of those were designed. Some of those were definitely. Now, was that the right call because everything was covered up downfield, or was he a little hesitant? I think a lot of those were hesitancy, admittedly, but I need to see the other angle to confirm. And it worries me. Now, I'm glad you got a long ass week and a half to look at these last 3 weeks. And I would rather, man, it's tough. I think I'd rather Bo play like he did against the Browns and the Colts. I don't know. Like, some of those decisions were so bad. You got to find like a happy middle ground in there. But I think you saw the cost of it tonight. Like, the offense got 80 yards in the second half. A lot of that blood is on Sean Payton's hands. A lot of it's on Bo's hands too. I hate to say it, but it is.
I have one more question for you. And this was something I was texting my friends Jeremy and Mark from Marky Sports about. Was on that last drive before we punted, where it was a 3-point game. I think it was around midfield. Lucas Kroll tackled like 5 yards short or so. I was hoping that Sean Payton was going to go for it because my friend Mark put it perfectly. He said, "I don't think we get the ball back if we punt." And I'm curious if that was kind of running through your mind on what we should have done. I know it's easy to go back and criticize it now, but I'm curious if you had any thoughts in the moment.
I could have gone either way on it. That's one where I'd be curious to see what the bots thought. Because I do think there's a lot of logic in going for it. I think a lot of the time you'd see, especially Sean Payton, given his aggressiveness. I mean, he went for that 4th down earlier in the game. I think he'd go for that. I think given how hard yards were to come by for the offense in the second half, and he's part of that too. I'm not trying to remove it. Like, Payton's got a lot of blood on his hands for this one. But for how hard yards were to come by for that second half, and you're just coming off a pretty great stop by your defense. It looked like maybe the defense was getting off the mat. I didn't hate it. I think I was leaning towards punting it. In the moment, I think I was like, I think I'd punt it here. But also, you're at midfield. Your defense hasn't played a very good game. There isn't a ton of time left. This might be your best bite of the apple. I think it's fair to criticize him for wanting to go for it. For me, I could go either way.
Yeah, cool.
Do you want to get into some of the defensive struggles here?
Yeah, man. Let's talk about it.
Kodiak hops on with you sometimes, right? Or am I misremembering? Okay,
Yeah.
Kodiak has some good comments here that I'm just going to use to tee us up on some different points, saying the inside linebackers and the safeties were absolutely egregiously bad today, as they were in the first matchup against the Chargers as well. Yeah, it was painful. I think the Sternad penalty was BS, frankly, but still, that's horrifically costly. That's 4 points right there. You have Cody Barton getting picked on all day. Honestly, both linebackers were getting picked on all day long by the running backs, and then both in the run game and the pass game. And then, man, one of the moments that'll stick in my head from this game is, okay, we were just talking about that. The Broncos could have stopped them. They have them on that 3rd and 10 or whatever. And then Herbert rolls out, gets the big gain of yardage, but they would have tackled him short of the sticks if PJ Locke, or I think he was even pushed over.
He tripped over.
he tripped, but I feel like Jaquan pushed him or kind of ran into him, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Those two guys run into each other. They both fall over, and no one's there to tackle Justin Herbert, who gets an easy first down. That's one of the moments of this game that's gonna like stick in my head and make
full
me
chargering right there. That's exactly what we did, man. It was a full
Broncos
chargering
charged
moment
in this game. It's a good way to put it. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like after losses like these, man, like it's tough because I'm like, dang, we need a lot more than 6 draft picks. That's how I feel. But man, it is crazy how, again, man, this is just how Jim Harbaugh does it. But you got a bunch of dudes out there. You don't got J.K. Dobbins. You got Kamani Vidal, like a 6th-round pick. You got Haskins, Gus Edwards, who like looks totally washed for most of this year. I feel like they couldn't run the ball coming into this game. And then all of a sudden, man, they're making our linebackers just look slow. Who the heck is Stone Smart, Zach? The guy had 3 catches for almost 40 yards today. It's like a no-name tight end. They might as well have had Will Disley out there. This guy's a 3rd-year player that I've never heard of in my life. Stone Smart. And Herbert was hitting him wide open. Man, those running backs tore us up. How is it that we just lose like our edge? We always look like the slower, more timid team against the Chargers in both matchups this year, man. Help me understand.
One, I think it's the Harbaughness. Like Harbaugh is, I don't even necessarily fault Sean Payton for this because I just think Harbaugh is out toughing most teams in the NFL right now. Now it was a pathetic way they folded up at the end of this one. But one, I think that's their style. 2, I think part of it is the Broncos team isn't built to do anything right now. Like, if you want to be really real, this Broncos team is built to lose football games. Like, and not, like a lot of players have stepped up. They've gotten great performances out of so many players this year, and that's why they're in this position. But they've got, 70 million in cap space. The salary cap this year is at 250 million. Like, that's damn near a third of their roster they don't have. Now, granted, Chargers are also in a rebuilding spot right now. It's frustrating to see them ahead of the Broncos, but they don't have a rookie quarterback. They've got a fully baked, people will debate whether he's top 10, top 5. I don't really care. That's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. And you saw it all day long I'll use it to segue into this next Kodiak Broncos point, saying the pass rush was on a milk carton tonight as well. Hope Benito Cooper figured this out because they're going to play against Slater alt for a long time. I'll say, the pass rush was absent tonight. I think it had more to do with the Chargers than the Broncos. Justin Herbert's incredibly hard to sack.
He looks like Ben Roethlisberger out there, like prime Ben Roethlisberger out there tonight, man.
He's giant. He can move, and he's got he's a lot smarter than Ben Roethlisberger was. Frankly, he knows how to find the right answer to the test much more proficiently than Ben Roethlisberger ever did. And then, Slater and Alt are two. Alt's not all. Alt's a top 5 pick, an extremely talented tackle prospect who's probably going to get a lot of accolades through his career. And then Slater's an All-Pro. Like, that's a brutal matchup with a quarterback that's very hard to tackle. And then you're beat up in the secondary, so it's going to be harder for your coverage to hold up for a while. And then your linebackers are turning in just a horrific performance in coverage. So it's really a weak back behind you there. So it was absent. I'm not overly concerned about the edge presence or how the defensive front played this game. I think it had more to do with the Chargers than the Broncos.
It was kind of weird. Like, I felt like Dondre Tillman was getting more penetration than like Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper. Like I don't know, call me crazy. But it was just interesting to see. Like, maybe they were just giving Nick Bonito more attention. We'll have to see. But I'm curious, Zach, too. Like, again, Drew Sanders had a wonderful sack there in the 4th quarter. They kind of lined him up as, I guess, kind of like a box linebacker, kind of moving him all over the place. I wasn't paying too close attention, but did you notice him on the field, like outside of that play? And if so, was he mainly at edge or at inside linebacker?
I think that's his only defensive snap of the season. And I don't like that's like, I give this guy a snap why is he playing all the snaps? It's sack machine. But I think that's also kind of why it worked. I doubt the Chargers are overly familiar with who Drew Sanders is, frankly. I guess he played in them in that game like 2 years ago at the end of the season at edge, but I doubt they're overly familiar with him. He lines up in the, A gap like that. I think they probably think he's just a depth inside linebacker, which effectively he is, but he's got pass rushing chops. I don't think he should be put at edge. I think he's shown he doesn't necessarily have the physical tools to do that, but he does have good pass rushing ability from his time playing edge and putting that inside, like Zach Bond with the Eagles this year. Zach Bond might end up being an all-pro, came into the league as an edge, has moved into inside linebacker. And a lot of what they do with him is blitz him from that inside linebacker position. And he's able to take advantage of those matchups. We're talking about one snap, so I don't want to compare it to an all pro, but like that as like a dramatically extrapolated version. I think that's why it was so effective on that one snap, but great job by Vance to dial that up in the moment. Great play by Drew Sanders. Really happy to see that from him too, man. He's had his position jerked around a million times, and then it tears his Achilles this offseason, has a coaching staff change. It's kind of amazing. He's in a position to make that play. So tip of the cap to him.
All right. Zach, this is a question because I always forget how it is. A sack is not counted as a TFL, is it? Is it both?
I don't know. I feel like I see it both ways, and I think college does it differently than the pro, so I mix it up.
Because Drew Sanders' stat line is 2 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 TFL.
Well, then he definitely played multiple snaps. I think TFLs count. I'm gonna do TFLs. Do sacks count as TFLs?
So it's like a random thing, but
no, but it's good to know. Okay, that's about it. If it counts for passing yards, sack considered a TFL. That's not a good answer. I don't plays ruled it. No, it might not be the same.
Let me go back at our last game and I'll look while you.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
One other here, where was it? I thought there was another good defensive point I wanted to touch on. Here, Kodiak again. Kodiak, thank you for these comments. It kind of perfectly teed up different points of the defense I wanted to talk about. So he says the defensive game plan was genuinely the same as our first matchup versus the Chargers when we were getting consistently clapped on defense on 3rd and 10 plus. And I agree. And I think that's been a consistent theme over these last 3 games, as well as that Chargers game. And what is the common thread there? You were down a cornerback. Chargers game, Surtain gets injured on the very first throw of the game. This time around, you're down Riley Moss. These last 2 weeks, you're down Riley Moss. And you've seen the 3rd down defense be a lot worse as a result. I think that is the absolute reason for that. I think I'm going to look wrong next week because they're going to go up against fucking Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, and those guys are going to be converting 3rd downs on Patrick Surtain and Riley Moss, and I'm going to look like an idiot. But I do believe that what we're seeing is, and is it concerning that one injury is that damaging to this defense? Yeah, totally. But that's what happens when you have 35% less money to spend on your roster. You've got some serious holes, and it's been amazing that they haven't really popped up until now, but now some are really popping up. And I think you're seeing it at running back. You're seeing it at tight end some. You're seeing it at cornerback. And then the rookie quarterback thing hasn't popped up for a couple months. Now you're seeing that pop up. It's exciting that Bo Nix has gotten to this point in his development, but film is out on him now, and defenses are counterpunching, and he's going to have to adapt to that. And we'll see what happens over these next 2 games.
With it being a longer season, maybe now compared to, 5 years ago or so, is Bo Nix just entering the sophomore slump a little bit earlier because of, the fact that after however many games we've played now, 14, 15, there's a book out on him?
I think absolutely. And also, if you want to go back to like when the sophomore slump concept is from, it's from like the mid to early 2000s when guys weren't often playing like week 1 rookie year. They were maybe waiting 3, 4, 5 years. That was coming, 10 games, 12 games of film or so in. Um, uh, I think the Browns game was more just Bo was winging it. Like he was throwing it all over the yard. But the Colts, like Gus Bradley, he's known for just kind of running what he runs. He was, the DC of the Legion of Boom that beat the Broncos. Like he's been around calling defenses for a long time. He's seen a thing or two. He's coordinated some really good defenses, and he had a bye week to sift through a lot of Bo Nix film. I think he found some things that give him a hard time. And I think Jesse Minter, we're talking about another one of the most highly thought of defensive minds in the league. I think he was able to build on that. Thankfully, you get to go up against the Bengals this coming week. If the offense struggles against the Bengals, then I will be pretty concerned.
Yeah, this has got to be a get right game for our offense. And I mean, all we need to do right is stop Cincinnati from scoring touchdowns for just a few drives. And that should be enough, right? But yeah, I don't know how we're going to cover those guys right now. Hopefully Riley Moss can come back, but we're going to need a much better performance out of our safeties next game because, hey, even if Jamar Chase is shut down by Pat Surtain, they got plenty of options there in Cincinnati for Joe Burrow to take advantage against. And it's crazy, man, the year that he's having. It's like an MVP caliber year statistically. And if he just had a defense with a heartbeat, they're a playoff team, I feel.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to be scared of there. And not to get, looking too far ahead. We got a week and a half before that one. But, you've got Trey Hendrickson, who's got a great chance to finish the season as the NFL sack king. As bad as that defense is, that's a player that can, turn things on its head very quickly. Jamar Chase probably, or maybe not probably, but has a very good chance of winning the NFL Triple Crown, which I think he'd just be the third player in NFL history to do that. And then Joe Burrow, if this team is, 9-4 instead of 4-8 or whatever, if they have a decent, like you're just saying, if they had a decent defense and had a record matching with the offensive production they're putting up, he's in the MVP conversation. So there's a lot of pieces on this offense or on the Bengals team to be scared of. One thing I wanted to comment on here really quick from Carl saying every time this VJ defense goes against an above average quarterback, Mayfield accepted, it feels like they turn into Manning, feast on dudes who can barely throw, though D just feels like smoke and mirrors. I guess I disagree here because look what he's done to Mahomes. Even look what he's done to Herbert like last year. I just or Josh Allen last year. I don't know. I think he's done a solid job even against quality quarterbacks. These last few performances, though, I will own pretty ugly. God, is there any? What am I missing from today? I mean, the run game at the start was good. I think there's reason for optimism that the Broncos could keep building on that. They, leaned away from some of the zone stuff, leaned more into gap stuff, a lot more Estime play time. Even a little bit more of the like quarterback run stuff.
Did we go away from gap stuff in the second half?
A little, but I think it was more just the Chargers sitting on everything. They were firing downhill. I think they were they were just suffocating everything. They were just sitting on everything is what it felt like more to me. I'll get a better read watching it back. But they definitely went away from Estime in the second half, and that's frustrating. I mean, God, it's annoying. I feel like it's been clear cut for a month now what they need to do. So I'm not super optimistic they're going to do it anymore. But man, give Estime more snaps, more touches. It's crazy.
Yeah. To answer our random question at the beginning of the show, I went through a bunch of different box scores, and I see a TFL every time there's a full sack. But then when there's half a sack, there's a 0 with the TFL. So I don't know if it's a coincidence or if you're just credited with the TFL if it's a full sack. But that's the answer I got for you right now, Zach.
I've got according to the NFL rulebook, a sack and a tackle for loss are two different statistics.
Okay.
So damn Drew Sanders, couple of splash plays tonight. I'm curious how many snaps he had. Watch him have 2 snaps, both of them are negative splash plays. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he really is an inside linebacker that we've been waiting for, right?
I've been eating crow on Nick Benito, on Marvin Mims, on Devon Villay, on Bo Nix, frankly, all year. Give me some more. Man, if Drew Sanders wants to, after I was burying him this offseason, if he wants to come out of nowhere and be the solution to inside linebacker, please let me look like a fool. I would be a delightful
Please, I would
revelation.
prefer not to have to draft one high. Like, there's so many other positions I'd rather us go after than an inside linebacker. But you almost get tempted to do it just because you want to, you want a baller, you want a dog right there in the middle.
It's painful. Man, I always feel like there's something I get off the show immediately, and I'm thinking, God, why didn't I say that? So I'm trying to think.
Do we need to talk about special teams at all? Sometimes we've forgotten about that, but
Man,
I'm trying to think.
Will Lutz executed the onside kick well. Sucks they didn't
Yeah.
recover it. The special teams one that drives me insane is the Tremont Smith running into him. I think, like, you want to talk about officiating. Man, he barely excuse me. I saw him fall over and I thought it was like more meaningful contact than it was. You watch the replay, man, the Chargers were, I mean, it's fitting that they were playing in that soccer stadium a couple years back, because my fucking Lord, the flopping, it got him so many tremendous calls that honestly on that one, and then the Justin Herbert personal foul, that's 7 points on like just wild flops. So
when is replay assist used? Like when the refs just get that?
Okay, so I have no fucking clue, because the way it was used today, it seems like it's available for everything. But I just saw literally yesterday, a headline that the NFL is considering using it for face mask penalties too, because they've missed a few pivotal face mask penalties this year. But so wait, why can they use it on these other replay? Like, it's so confusing. And I love the idea of replay assist. I think that's the way of the future. It will clean up officiating so much, I think. But I would like a little more clarity on when it's in play.
Yeah. Or like, just on that one on Sternad, man, with Herbert sliding. It's like, it looks, I feel like, a lot more serious, bang, bang. But then when you look, I mean, he's clearly making an effort to let up. That's kind of how I felt.
Here's one last thing I wanted to talk about, and I think it's positive cope on my end, but whatever, we could maybe use that on a night of a really painful loss. I think it might be a little good. This team lost this game. They played 3 pretty bad games in a row. Like, they were awesome in the Falcons game, and ever since, they've played pretty bad. Frankly, outside of the first half of this Chargers game, I was thinking like, wow, nice, they're finally playing well again.
Yeah.
But they've managed to win in spite of playing really, really bad. And part of that's been they've been playing some bad teams that were also willing to shoot themselves in the foot. And the Chargers are well coached and were willing to do that. This is a young team, and I think some of it's good to be like humble them a bit for this final home stretch, recenter them. And unlike the Buffs, who, like, I think about the Buffs season, they were getting away with some. And I remember thinking on the stretch, like, God, it feels like one of these times they're not going to be able to get away with it. And then they weren't against Kansas. And they were in a position where they had to win out in order for them to kind of get where they wanted to go. The Broncos don't. They just have to win one more. But I think having a loss, having some repercussions for showing up flat, for making some horrific mistakes is, you don't want it to happen. Ultimately, you don't want the Broncos to lose. I think it might be a good lesson for this team and recenter them and get them to kick ass again. Because what did I say? Last time they looked great was that Falcons performance. That was right off of a painful Chiefs loss. And that whole stretch beforehand, the Chiefs game, the Panthers game, the Saints game, the Falcons game, they were on a roll then.
Did that kind of start the Falcons' kind of downfall? I know it was kind of at the beginning of their losing streak. Yeah,
they really did. But the Broncos have wrecked a few teams this year, and I think I don't know. Some of this is cope. Absolutely, it would have been a lot nicer if they won today. But I do think if you want to find a silver lining in this one, it might be good that they finally didn't get away with one, and they're not learning this lesson. Because the Bengals are a bad team. I think they could easily lose that game, but there's a reason the Bengals are 4-8 in spite of all the offensive talent. They find a way to lose games, much like the Colts and the Raiders and the Browns. And then the Chiefs, if they trot out a lot of backups, there's a chance the Broncos, sneak out of this one. They sneak out another one against a bad Bengals team. They beat a team of Chiefs backups, and the record's looking a lot prettier at the end of the season. But then they show up in the wild card round and they play a good team and they get fucking smacked. And hopefully they can learn something from this performance that gets them more prepared for the postseason. There's my silver lining, little bit of optimism as we close.
Yeah, let's find some momentum going into the postseason. If Tim Tebow can throw for 300 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers, anything can happen.
Hey, why not? Hey, and that's the thing. That's a much less likely postseason win. David, before we get out of here, do you have a positive little note maybe to close us out on?
Man, usually I'm the positive guy, man. I'm really sad about this one, but I'll say, hey, I think the rookie class looks great. We saw more out of Audric Estime, was really efficient in his what turned out to be sadly limited usage. And I think Chris Abrams-Drain, man, he's the real deal. I mean, you couldn't ask for more out of a day 3 cornerback with what he's done in these last 2 games. So I think we've gotten positive, impactful production from all of our picks. That outside Nick Gargiulo, he hasn't really played much, and hopefully we're not in a situation where he has to anytime soon. More of a developmental guy, but this draft class is looking real nice. I think they've all helped level this team up to better play. And I think that's my big takeaway here. Young guys are good.
I love that takeaway to close. And then, a couple UDFAs even coming out of the fold with Paucheski and God, it just totally spaced my mind. Save me, or don't they have a UDFA? Oh, Tillman. Sorry, out of the UFL. That's what it is.
Andre Tillman. Yeah.
Also part of the first year NFL players joining this team. I know Paucheski was a UDFA last year, but he was IR all year. I don't count it. Getting that wave of reinforcements is tremendous for a rebuilding team, and you can see how they'll slot in going forward. This team will pay Nick Benito, and then you're going to have to find cheap depth behind him. You've got that locked in. Troy Franklin, I don't know if he'll fit into things long-term, admittedly, but Chris Abrams-Drain clearly does. Audric Estime clearly does. Devon Villay clearly does. Everyone hates Nate Tyson, Matt Harmon over at Football 301 after what they said about Bo Nix. They were heaping a whole lot of praise onto Devon Villay and how excited they are about him and what he could be going forward for the Denver Broncos. Compared him to Nico Collins, everybody. So, honestly, you look at his physical profile, it's not that crazy. The crazy part is he's entering the NFL at 26. He's turning 27 this month. But he's that level of athlete, and the role kind of matches. Anyways,
Zach, I got a quick question for you though.
Yeah,
I just got to ask you this.
Yeah,
does Devon Villay make you more open if Luther Burden say one of those top wide receivers ain't there by the time we pick? What if we just go with older guys that kind of fall in the draft because they're older? Are you okay with that?
No.
Like Pat Bryant or the kid, I think Lacey from LSU. I don't know how much you've gone into this.
I think there's room for it. I'd be more open to it at positions like center, at middle linebacker, at quarterback. The safety, you're in the center of whatever's going on, and also it's more mentally straining positions. I think there I'll emphasize the experience. The reason you're seeing people go so far away from the drafting old guys is because one of the strongest analytic discoveries we've had is that the just draft hit rates for young guys is much higher than it is for low guys. Now, I think there's something to be said for like the Browns and the Minnesota Vikings would never draft Devon Villay. Like they are just they take anybody like 23 and up, they would take them off their draft board. I think that's too extreme.
Yeah.
I think you should factor it in. But I don't think it should be the lone decision maker.
Might be changing a little bit with NIL, yeah.
But yeah, NIL could absolutely change it. Like, who I'd love 2026 draft, little Nikhai Hill-Green. I mean, that's a linebacker right there. Get him a few more college reps. He'll be absolutely ready to go. But yeah, I don't think you necessarily want to go older. I think that there's times where it's the right thing to do, but I don't think you just want to totally zag that hard. I think you're going to end up with a lot of because the concern there is a 19-year-old's got some athletic, you're drafting a 20, 21-year-old, they've got some athletic potential to still grow into. They're still growing and developing physically as well as mentally and all that. A 25-year-old in college is dunking on some 19-year-olds that aren't fully developed, especially if we're talking about a position like wide receiver or corner. So that's, I think, the concern there. But Devon Villay, what a find. And man, you draft, like, this is a loaded running back class, a loaded tight end class. You hit on a couple of those pieces and plug it into this offense, and you get some smart signings. I don't think you chase a T. Higgins, but I think you just get smart signings so that, if a Riley Moss could get, and that's a bad example because they've discovered Chris Abrams' drain, but so you're not in a position where it's like, fuck, I guess we're playing Levi Wallace this week, that they should insulate themselves from that. I think
Adam Troutman or Lucas Kroll go down. What are you doing?
Facts.
Nate Atkins show.
Forget. The fact that sentence ends with "if they go down," they should follow the "if they go down" part of the sentence. It should be, oh man, Sam Laporta, if he goes down, you might have to lean on Adam Troutman. That's what the sentence should be. It should not be Adam Troutman, if he goes down, what are you going to do? And you're right to say it because that's the position they're in right now. But give me a Tyler Warren, give me a Gunnar Helm. So it's like, God dang, Gunnar Helm's down. Now we're leaning on Adam Troutman instead of starting the guy every week. I'm excited. Also, sorry, Landon, I appreciate you, man. Good luck. I don't know if you're going to find a more dominant defensive line. Like they're
Walter Nolan. That's the only solution. Walter Nolan.
I will say, first round defensive line, I think that might be the way.
I'm okay. I'm totally okay with that.
There's like Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren, I think, are worth first round picks. Don't get me wrong, people, but like there are 10 awesome tight ends in this draft, and there's 15 awesome running back. Like, and I mean awesome, not like, this guy's a good third round. I mean, like, guys that should go top 50 are going to get pushed down to the third round because there's just like people don't super value those positions highly in the draft. And there's so many good ones. Like Gunnar Helm is awesome. He might go third round. Defensive line talent, those guys are going to go in the first round. And this class also is awesome on defensive line talent. I think, and we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. We've got a ways to talk draft. In my dream world, and you need the board to fall right and everything, obviously, I think you go D-line first round, replenish, get ready for maybe a Zach Allen departure down the line or DJ Jones leaving this offseason. Get that first round defensive lineman, keep this group rolling, being absolutely filthy. And then second round, you get that running back or that tight end. Third round, you go the other way. And then, day 3, you maybe get a second running back in there. And you roll, man. Get a vet receiver, maybe draft one in the mid-rounds. Mid-round receiver hit rates are pretty good. You get a little bit of spice on this thing. I'm telling you. Like, the vision, and I know it's frustrating after tonight. The offense looks so low wattage, but man, I think you just get a little sprinkling because I think you've got a good top 3 receivers right now with Sutton, Villay, and Mims. I think they need to upgrade that and they need to round it out some more. Yeah. But it doesn't look as horrific as it did in like week 2, week 3 of this year when we were having those conversations. You just add a little bit at wide receiver. You upgrade the running back tight end rooms, which you're going to be very well positioned to do this offseason. And this, man, it could be really fun in 2025.
Yeah, man. I think if we make a solid signing at wide receiver this offseason. It gives our draft a lot of great flexibility. And man, wouldn't it just be so nice, having a guy. I mean, I know Zach Allen's been playing out of his mind, but pairing him with somebody that could play like Chris Jones right there at the nose, man, wouldn't that just be so nice having just two just dogs right there, both
Disgusting.
demanding double teams. Yeah.
Disgusting. All right. Please shout everyone out. I went like 10 minutes after I was initially wrapping us up. Sorry about that, David. But please tell everyone where they can find more of your work. You are the man. You got the great Buff stuff, the great Broncos stuff, and people should go subscribe to your work and support you.
Thank you. Yeah, Zach, thanks for staying a little late with me talking about draft. But you can find me at David Talks Broncos. Find me at David Talks Buffs. And yeah, with Broncos, we're almost at 2,100 subscribers. So maybe, my content kind of changes up every week. Maybe we might do a little bit of a deep dive going into where was Drew Sanders if this man was blowing up plays in the backfield. What was he doing? And can we see more of him in the future?
I'm with it. Everyone, check him out. Is your line at 10 wins or 11 wins? What do you need?
It's at 10 wins, man.
All right, man. I think I don't want to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. But support David. Give him the good vibes he needs to hit that 10-win line. And until next time, everybody. We'll be back Monday. I guess Monday. Talking more Broncos. Wednesday with another pregame. But that'll be Christmas. I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do that.
I take it all back. Yeah. We'll figure out something for our Christmas schedule. I don't know what that'll be yet. But until next time, everybody, let's go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Subscribe to David.